Hello, and happy Love Day or happy Valentine's Day. Um, yeah, Love Day for those who maybe don't have a Valentine to send a card to. Um, and, a day to give ourselves love and to give love to friends and family and so forth. So, today I have published my first book on Kindle, on Amazon Kindle, to be available in paperback shortly and also to be available on other devices, hopefully. This is me giving myself a lot of love. As some of you might know, I have been writing a book for... Hi, Trisha. Thank you so much for your support. I have been writing a book for 4 years, and that's another book. And then this book, I just decided at the start of January that I really needed to write this book because I feel that I have information about dating and relationships and romance, hard-earned information, and through many years of dating mishaps and relationship breakups and heartache and recovery from various self-sabotaging behaviours and self-harming behaviours and all those things. And I felt that I had done 13 or 14 years of work on myself, personal development, therapy, recovery, lots of different things. And I really felt that I had something to share, that I had something to say to people who are struggling to understand why they might be single. I'm just getting that off the screen. People who don't understand why they aren't able to meet somebody and have a relationship, a lasting relationship. Hi, Vicky. I felt like I had something to say, that I had some information that was valuable. And I was so inspired to share that information that I wrote the book in a month. So that's nearly 60,000 words written in a month or 5 weeks if you include the revising and the editing and the publishing process. So that is an absolute miracle. I have worked incredibly hard. Anyone who knows me, I am a complete perfectionist. And my standards are ridiculously high, which is one of the reasons I really struggled to find a relationship and to find somebody who met those standards. And that's one thing that I talk about in the book. So it's a miracle that it's out there. It's a miracle that it's out there today. Here it is on my Kindle. And I'm really looking forward to the paperback because I have a beautiful cover designed by Bryony from Gold Dust Design, who works in my studio in the old schoolhouse in Boscombe. Along with Trisha Walker. So I'm really looking forward to the paperback being out, hopefully in 10 days or so. What is this book about? So it is about going on an inner journey, a journey of personal transformation to understand why we might be single, to understand why we might be attracted to people who can't meet our needs, why we might be attracted to unavailable men or women, why we pick holes in people, why we find fault in good guys, nice guys, women who might be good for us, why we don't like the reliable types, why we always go for people who maybe aren't good for us. It's about learning to connect with ourselves, with our feelings, understand the feelings that lie beneath the surface, the feelings that we don't really want to feel, that we might use all manner of ways to avoid. And I have a lot of history of that. So I had an eating disorder and other coping mechanisms to not feel my feelings. So I talk about in my first chapter how important it is to pause, to sit still, to feel our feelings, perhaps to do some meditation, to get in touch with what is inside us. Because we might not want to feel it, but it might be blocking us from relationship. So it might be a barrier, it might be a block to love. So I invite readers to pause and reflect and to sit still and to feel the feelings. And then I encourage people to work on their self-esteem, to build what I call the inner oak tree. So that strong core, the oak that grows strong, that has, that flourishes, that has really deep roots, that's really strong and steady, and doesn't blow over in the breeze. So imagine that you are that oak tree and you go dating and the guy doesn't like you or a relationship ends, but it really doesn't matter because you are a steady oak and you trust yourself and you believe that the right person is out there for you. And then I also talk about identifying our patterns. So they can be particularly patterns about being attracted to unavailable people, people who can't meet our needs, people who might be afraid of commitment. And one of the things I suggest there is to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we afraid of commitment? Because that was my story. Everybody I met who didn't want to commit, I blamed them. I didn't realise that my subconscious was leading me to men who wouldn't commit because that was safe for me. So I remember as a little girl, my mum and dad divorced, and my dad sat me on his knee when I was 8 years old and said that he'd be moving out. He'd be moving to Grand's around the corner. And, 8 years old for a little girl, that's heartbreaking. He's the first man in my life, the first male love of my life. He's tall, he's handsome, he's strong, and he tells me he's leaving. And, psychotherapists will tell you that what children do in that situation is they blame themselves. They think there's something wrong with them, and they think they weren't lovable enough. And so we form these beliefs, and we decide that love is painful, and love equals loss, and we decide that we don't want to do that again. So we keep choosing people with whom we can never do that because they might be married to somebody else or attached to somebody else or in a relationship with somebody else. They might live on the other side of the world. They might be married to their job. They don't have any space. So we keep choosing these people because our subconscious, the little girl or the little boy inside us who was hurt, doesn't want to get hurt again. So it's kind of a deliberate act, but we don't realise we're doing it. And I talk about how to change those patterns and how I learned to change those patterns. Hello, Catherine. Thanks for your message. And sorry, I was so distraught earlier, but I'm happier now. So how to change those patterns through self-awareness, through what I talked about in the first 2 chapters about building our inner oak and learning to act in our best interests. So when we go on a date or we get into a relationship, we know how to act in our best interests. And then I look at letting go of the fantasy of the perfect person. So this is very, when we have had, a parent leave us or our parents' relationship break up, we have this fantasy of the perfect care, that we can meet the person who's going to solve that terrible thing that happened, who's going to fix that pain, who's going to fill that hole, and we keep looking for them. And so we create these lists of, impossible people. So my list, as I say in the book, was a combination of my mum, my dad, my brother, both tall, handsome men, and Patrick Swayze off Dirty Dancing, because I saw that film around 16 and I thought, that's who I want, salsa dancing, masculine, tender, all those things. So that was my list, and so it was an impossible list to meet. So nobody would manage to meet those requirements, and I kept saying that the men weren't good enough. So that was another strategy on the part of my subconscious to avoid getting into an intimate relationship, because I thought intimate relationships were very painful. I talk about making space and time for love. I talk about letting go of old relationships, past relationships in our heads and also physically. So maybe stopping texting and emailing and creating some space for ourselves. And I talk about understanding that when we see the characteristics that we really dislike about ourselves, when we see them in the man or the woman that we're trying to get close to, well, if you're anything like me, it completely freaks you out. You see this characteristic that you hate about yourself in a partner, for example, in my case, somebody who's overweight. I was overweight and I hated that about myself. So when I used to see that in a partner, I just had to get out of there really quickly. I absolutely hated it. So that's a trigger point, what I call a trigger point, and learning to manage those and sit with it and what's going on here? What is this? Is this my fear? Is this my instinct? Is this my crazy past? And I talk about setting healthy and loving boundaries when we go dating and when we enter into relationships of all kinds, around alcohol, around how long we stay out on a date, around how much we share in the early days, lots of other things. And I talk about making bold choices, which is what I did, as some of you know, in my relationship. I was terrified of committing, terrified of giving my heart, because the little girl said, that's a really bad idea, you're going to get hurt. So I had to sort of train myself to commit and walk through the fears and commit. And as many of you know, that worked out really well. I am in a healthy, loving relationship with my wonderful partner, and I also made a really bold choice to change my life, to quit my job as a Reuters news reporter based in Parliament when I used to fly around with the Prime Minister. It was exciting and adrenalising, but it was no longer me in my late 30s. It was no longer aligned with my authentic self. So I left that job and slowly built up a different life, blogging from the heart and writing, and had this goal of publishing a book for so many years. And now I've done it. And I moved out of London and I live by the sea, and I just went for a swim this afternoon in an outdoor swimming pool, not in the sea, outdoor swimming pool. And I was loving myself because I was anxious about the book and wondering if it would go live today. And I went for a swim and a sauna and a steam and pampered and loved myself with a friend. So that was a really good thing to do. So I would love it if you'd like to purchase my book. It is on Amazon Kindle, and I hope to have it in paperback in about 10 days. A beautiful cover designed by Bryony from Gold Dust Design in my studio. And yeah, and it's a real achievement for somebody who is or was frightened to go after her dreams, frightened to be vulnerable and real in case I would be judged, I would be criticised. And if you look at the dedication in my book, it isn't to anybody else. There's lots of thank yous in the acknowledgements, but the dedication is for my inner child. You have a voice, enjoy it. So yeah, that's what I decided to dedicate my book to, because I have struggled, I think, to believe in my voice as much as I wanted to speak. Talking about speaking, I'm on my way to speak on Radio Wimborne down here in Dorset with Alan Turner Ward about my book. So I'll be on there this evening if you'd like to tune in to Radio Wimborne. Yeah, so I have my voice, and this book isn't just about dating and relationships. So if you're already in a relationship, if you're married, a friend of mine, Nicola Humber, read the book and she is married and she really enjoyed it, and lots of light bulb moments about her relationships. But I also believe that this book is about learning to thrive and not survive, to go for our dreams, whatever they are. They might be a relationship, but they might be something completely different. They might be moving to live by the sea. They might be sailing around the world. They might be writing a book. Whatever they are, you know, I want to encourage you to understand your blocks and your fears as I have understood mine, and then to find the support and then to push through. So I'd better go, because I'm going to speak on Radio Wimborne, and then I'm going out for dinner with my partner for Valentine's Day. So sending lots of love to you all, whether you're in a relationship or not. Love yourself, love the people around you, and love my book. Please do. And if you'd loved it, please say that you loved it on Amazon. That would be amazing. And I'll be back again very soon. Thanks for all your hearts and thumbs up, and thanks for watching. Bye.